Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
Look at that! There's those little piggies. Of course, pigs living by the woods have to be careful. Ooh. You know, their silly song always makes me laugh. But they should be looking out for the big bad wolf. For the big bad wolf.
Hello, this is episode 233. They're driving in a Bentley. When I mean they, there's like Eleanor Rigby. Yeah, good name, I know. And a Psychopathic Werewolf driving in a very expensive Bentley. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Eleanor Rigby. I've never driven a Bentley Bentayga before. To be honest, I never wanted to. In truth, a car like this hurts my feelings. In my earlier, more politically charged period, I would have been totally disgusted with someone owning something like this. Now I was driving it. It was a lovely thing, though. I hate myself a little for thinking that, but it was amazing. I can see the benefits of wealth. I bet the professor had never had to resort to baked bean curry to get through the week. It was a fantastic car, and although the name was stupid, Bentayga, until about 20 minutes ago, I hadn't been entirely sure how to pronounce it. In fact, I did not want to pronounce it. Let's give it a try. Bentayga. It felt like a car that should come with a Latin motto and a valet. Who names these bloody things? They spend so much time on how they look and perform and all that nonsense. Then, Bentayga. Sorry, mind fart. The professor's driveway was 5 minutes of manicured gravel bordered by old oaks that had likely voted in several elections. The kind of trees that could definitely hold a grudge. I bet they all had postcodes attached to them for resident tree nymphs. I wondered how much of this estate's population was comprised of corporeal tested others, the Fae. Perhaps this is why this place felt the way it did. Not quite real. Not quite not. Will was all coolly slumped werewolf, in man form, in the passenger seat, all 6 foot odd of reluctant, fine-smelling. Does he possess some glamour that he uses to deceive my eye? I've read that the Surrogate tribe doesn't, but there's something altogether intriguing about this man. He had taken his jacket off, and I'd noticed that, in deference to his wolf soul, he'd placed it in the footwell, rather than throwing on the back seat, which was now inhabited by an invisible wolf soul. Yep, you heard that right too, invisible wolf soul. The man part of this duo sighed and lounged down in a plain white t-shirt that somehow managed to look like it had been designed by a gothic tailor. His hair was strangely damp from wherever he'd been brooding, and his eyes, those gold-shot coloured eyes, were fixed on the passing scenery like it had personally offended him. Maybe some of those tree nymphs had. In the back seat, though, I couldn't see him. I could feel Fenrir, Will's ancient invisible wolf soul. His presence pressed against the air like static. It prickled the back of my neck every few seconds, just to remind me he was there. We left the private road past the gatehouse. The giant gates opened by themselves at our approach, of course. Did they open by magic or mechanics? I said out loud. Will laughed.
Why'd you care?
He asked. I sighed and ignored him. Of course I cared. I was by definition of being a student a nosy person. Will was definitely not cool. He was an utter cunt. Sorry, but it was more than appropriate for this man. Thing. Whatever. He exuded sexiness, but he was a proper knob. So narcissistic it would seem the world had been created for his personality. I returned my focus to the Bentley as it purred along the country road, smooth as cream. I was enjoying driving it. This was driving. In the old Igo, Betty, this would be travelling. Will spoiled my driving reflection, of course he did. He spoke, he had to. He had not heard his own voice for at least 5 minutes. His words, as usual, were threaded with the kind of patronising amusement I'd already learned to brace for.
So, Dr. Rigby in training,
he said, stretching the words like a cat disemboweling a mouse. Another little dig at me. I tutted. I could not help it. It just arrived at my tongue and teeth. He smirked and had the audacity to carry on talking.
Tell me, what does the modern scholar think about the supernatural these days? Do you believe in ghosts and monsters, or are you here to rationalise us into footnotes?
He asked with what seemed little interest. Did I think he could ever be interested in anything as tiny as humanity? I glanced at him. His smile was deliberate, testing, like he was waiting for me to flinch or start quoting something embarrassingly outdated from a textbook. But I didn't flinch. I would not give this monstrous man that pleasure. Instead, I took a slow breath, offering him the sensation that he was boring me and that his question was a little bit silly. At least that was what I wanted to display. The professor had warned me that talking to Will was like fencing with sarcasm. I think he did Will a great service by saying this was fencing. Will just seemed to be trying to bludgeon me with it. I decided to parry anyway. After all, I had always wanted to speak to him. Only now did I realise that he was what he was. Not a very nice thing. Fancy that, Eleanor. The werewolf not being a very nice thing. Strange that. I added a little bit of a patronising growl to my voice as I tried to act as though what he had asked deserved a hint of ridicule at him asking such a silly, inept question. Belief, as you should know, a nice addition to the sentence there, a riposte that he had walked into with his strike, and reality aren't opposites, I said, keeping my eyes on the road the entire time. He was listening, but he turned to the front of the car and settled deeper into his seat. So I continued. They're codependent. The supernatural isn't outside of the natural world. It's the part of it that refuses to fit in the boxes we've built. His smirk faltered, just slightly.
Oh,
he said.
What does that mean exactly?
It means, I paused before I continued, that entities like you, werewolves, spirits, cryptids, angels, you don't defy physics, you expand it. The same laws that make gravity work also govern possession and transformation. We just don't have ways to measure them yet. From the back seat came a low growl, half amused, half sceptical. That would be Fen.
So you think that science can dissect the divine?
Will murmured completely offhandedly.
You think it's all equations waiting to be solved and stuff?
I took a moment to consider this statement. I had learned that the most intelligent always pause to consider before replying. No, I said. I think it's all relationships waiting to be understood. Energy, intention, myth, biology, they all interact. The old tribes of Surrogate understood that. They called it the Pact of the Fang, the idea that the spirit and the body must remain in balance or both go mad. He looked at me sharply then, surprise flickering behind those wolf eyes.
The Pact of the Fang?
He asked, bemused.
Who called it that?
I looked at his eyes briefly and then replied with an element of my own smugness. I did, I smiled as I returned my eyes to the road ahead, enjoying his questions. He stared at me. I could see things rushing through his head. I thought he might be angry. I thought he might admonish me for what he thought was a display of disrespect to him and his kin. I prepared an apology in my head. Then he laughed.
The Back to the Fang, rated R at a cinema near you. Sounds like a crappy B-movie to me.
He said. Sorry, I don't know why I did it. I apologised with a slightly humiliated sorry. He looked at me strangely, then smiled. I saw the smile aimed at me via the rearview mirror. It was the first warm expression I had seen on that gorgeous face.
No, I do actually love it,
he said. I had an internal shiver. I had felt like he had patted me on my head and called me a good girl, which in the moment was wonderful. I was thrilled. Then I remembered I was a strong, independent woman, and he had been a chauvinistic dick. That kind of talk from a man should be seen as patronising and misogynistic, but I could not see it like that. I liked it.
So you know about the, Back to the Fang thing then, do you?
He said, breaking my spurious thoughts. I've been studying your tribe for 3 years, I said. I saw him purse his lips and nod. Your people didn't just survive the Siberian wilderness. They thrived because they embraced coexistence with the metaphysical. You didn't just change under the moon, you conversed with it. There was silence for a moment. The road hummed beneath us.
You're really not what I expected,
Will muttered, finally scratching the back of his neck.
Most humans who talk about the supernatural do it like they're talking about, fairy tales or maybe a virus.
And you're not what I expected. Most werewolves don't use the word metaphysical. He laughed.
How many werewolves have you met then?
He asked. I ignored him.
That'll be one then, yeah?
From behind me came a snarl, deep, ancient, and faintly irritated. Then, clear as thought, I heard a voice. It wasn't Will's.
You talk too much, little scholar.
The air seemed to shiver with the sound. My hands tightened on the wheel. Hello, Fen, I said softly. I was wondering when you joined the conversation. Will blinked and looked towards me. His normally unreadable face was showing surprise.
So what, you can actually hear him, can you?
I can sort of, not hear him maybe, but feel what he says. I said, it's like being next to a radio tuned to the wrong century. That earned me a low, rumbling laugh from the wolf spirit.
You are bold, that may save you or doom you.
Most of my lecturers say that about my thesis, I said, keeping my tone light. Will turned away, but I'd caught the faintest twitch of his mouth. Not quite a smile, but close enough to count as progress. The rest of the drive unfolded in a strange, charged quiet. The Bentley glided through the falling fog, carrying a werewolf, his invisible ancient soul, and one very nervous academic towards the university, where a certain professor was waiting with answers none of us were ready for. And somewhere between the hum of the engine and the soft whisper of the wind, I realised something unsettling. I wasn't studying the supernatural anymore. I was living inside it. We had been driving for 20 minutes. The sky had turned a bruised shade of violet, the Bentley droning contentedly beneath my hands. When Will decided to get philosophical again, he'd obviously been thinking at some length. That was my first mistake, assuming that a werewolf getting philosophical was a safe thing.
So,
he said lazily, his head resting against the window.
If belief defines reality as you so confidently claimed, then theoretically reality bends to belief, yes?
I glanced at him, unsure with where this was going. In principle, I said. Observation affects phenomena. Belief influences energy, but reality has its own...
Ah.
He interrupted, that sly grin forming again.
So it can bend?
I didn't say that, I replied. I said it responds like a current. You can't influence it, but you can't...
Eleanor,
he said, turning his seat to face me fully.
you trust your own mind, don't you?
That was my second mistake, I said. Of course. He smiled then, the polite kind, but the kind that predators use when they're about to teach you a lesson.
Good.
He said softly.
Then see that bollard up ahead? Yeah, right ahead of us.
He pointed in its direction. I blinked. What?
See it? End of the lane. Big round, immovable stone-type thingy. Perfect test subject.
I squinted through the windshield. Sure enough, a large stone bollard sat in the middle of the two others at the end of the road. I was sure that they hadn't been there before he'd mentioned them. I'm not seeing things, am I asked.
No.
Said Will, far too calmly.
It's there, but here's the thing. If you truly believe it's not real, if your mind and your faith in unreality are absolute, then you can drive straight through it, can you not? No damage, no collision, no reality. Will reality yield? It will, won't it?
When you're alone in your house, but you'd like to feel like you're not, the podcast inside your house can keep you company. Our show will make sure that you run up the stairs at night when you turn off the lights and check under your bed before you sleep. We'll bring you every kind of horror, from the classics like Lovecraft and Poe to the strange and often silly world of no sleep and creepypastas. We've even got stories written just for the show that you won't hear anywhere else. So go and check out the podcast inside your house. We're on all major platforms, as well as inside your pantry, deep in your crawl space, and sitting at the foot of your bed at night, watching you sleep.
From the backseat came Fenn's low, ancient rumble, part warning, part growl.
Do not do this, little scholar.
I ignored him for the moment. My heart was already pounding. You're joking, I said.
Deadly serious.
Will replied, eyes glittering.
You claim belief shapes the world. So shape it. Go on, drive forward. Prove it. Let's see some magic.
He toys with you.
Finn snarled.
He would see how far you go before instinct betrays your mind.
No, it's not that. It's, the bollard is just, simple illusion.
Will said smoothly.
It's a trick of faith. If you doubt it, you'll crash. If you believe me, if you believe yourself, well, you won't.
I stared ahead. The bollard sat there, perfectly ordinary and unthreatening, except for how solid and how real it looked. He must have worked some magical glamour to make me see it. He was testing me. I needed to pass this test. It was a pretty trick to make me look stupid. I was not going to fall for this test. I gripped the wheel tighter. You wouldn't risk the car, I said. Not a Bentley. You love this thing. He laughed.
It's not mine, but of course you're right. I wouldn't be daft enough to let us have a massive accident just to make a point, would I?
He laughed.
And anyway, I'm not risking it. You are.
He said, leaning back, then the grin widened.
I love seeing how far a human will, take an idea.
The road narrowed, the air thickened. The rational part of my brain, the part trained in evidence, analysis, controlled variables, screamed, stop! But the other part, the one that had studied ghosts and quantum consciousnesses and the edge of belief, whispered, what if he's right? I eased my foot onto the accelerator. The engine growled. Will laughed.
Eleanor?
Fenn's voice rippled through my mind like a cold wind.
Do not give him this victory.
It's okay, I whispered. He's not really going to let me crash. It's a trick he's testing me with.
Atta girl.
Will murmured.
You trust the unseen. Trust the murderous, psychotic killer.
The bollard loomed closer. Will was laughing. 30 meters. 20. 10. The rationalist in me screamed that this was insane, that I was about to smash the professor's car, my career, and possibly my face. But the other voice, the one that believed in the shimmering, hidden structure of the supernatural world, said, belief defines reality. And for one mad, shining second, I believed that the bollard wasn't real. I hit the accelerator, the Bentley surged forward, and the impact came with the sound of an explosion of air and metal. The car lurched to an immediate bone jarring. I woke. The airbags had deployed violently and had slammed into my chest and my face, and my ears rang. The smell of burnt rubber filled the cabin. For a moment there was silence, except for the ticking of the engine and the soft hiss of the airbags deflating. "Ow," I muttered. Beside me, Will was suspended in a cocoon of airbag, blinking slowly like a man who just witnessed divine retribution in action. He turned towards me silently until his laughter broke like a divine created storm. From the back seat came Fenn's low, unmistakable laughter, dark, thunderous, and full of teeth.
So much for belief, little one.
I, as you may imagine, failed to see the joke. Prying the deflated airbag from my face, I glared at Will. You said...
I said reality bends to belief.
He said, rubbing his forehead and clenching and unclenching his jaw to test for injury.
I didn't say you were ready to bend it, did I?
He winked at me and gave me that smile again. I hated him right now. Then faintly he added,
But, on the bright side, you proved that the car's safety features are brilliant.
He said, patting the now oddly shaped interior. You absolute... I began.
Genius?
I didn't answer. I just stared at the wrecked Bentley, the bollard that had most definitely not been an illusion, and thought, this is what happens when philosophy meets a complete dickhead. Fenn's voice echoed in my mind one last time, soft and amused.
Next time, little scholar, trust the wolf over the man.
That was so fucking stupid of you. I can't believe you did that.
Said the laughing bastard sat next to me.
I mean, it was fucking brilliant, but so fucking stupid.
He carried on through the laughter. He paused and wiped his eyes.
Fucking funniest thing I've seen this week, honestly. Can't believe you believed me and that belief fucked you up.
He coughed and settled a little, staring at my hard and angry face.
So what have we learnt, little intern?
He asked me. It slipped out before I could stop it. That you're a total dick, I spat.
Yeah, I am, yeah.
He said, pointing at me.
I mean, that's a given, isn't it?
He replied again, laughing. I stared at him, and then a smile broke out on my face. There was a lot of adrenaline flowing through me. That's what I blame. Maybe I put the Bent in Bentley, or that stupid fucking name, Tiger Bollocks, I smiled. We were both laughing now, so the sound of sirens filled the air. Eventually I stopped laughing. I had to. I was now anti-adrenalized. I wiped away the tears from my face with a sleeve. The fucking reality of what had just happened hit me. I had done something very serious and dangerous. That sobered me in a moment. Will continued to laugh. I started to worry. Why was he still laughing? I became very uncomfortable. It was not that funny. You could have killed us. Me! I said disapprovingly. He looked at me and laughed harder as he acknowledged what I said with a nod of the head.
He's not laughing at you anymore, little one.
Came the wolf's voice.
He's laughing at the phone call you're now going to have to make to Professor.
Will turned in what remained of the seat and looked at the empty rear one, still laughing, and nodded again. I looked on, horrified at this vulgar display of conceit.
And now he's laughing at because he's imagining the Professor's face when he sees the remains of this car.
Looking for a Dungeons & Dragons podcast that's chaotic, hilarious, and just a little bit heartfelt? Join the party and You've Got to Be Critting Me, an actual play adventure where a tiefling bard with too much flair, a Goliath fighter who solves problems with bigger problems, a rogue and his very suspicious rat, and a dwarf druid who may or may not be drunk stumble their way through epic quests and bean-related disasters. Don't ask. New episodes drop every other Monday, so hit follow on You've Got to Be Critting Me and join the adventure today.
Will pointed at the invisible beast in the back seat. "You're an utter bastard," I told Will. He looked at me and nodded, still unable to talk.
He agrees,
said the calm voice of the wolf soul.
The Professor. It's raining again. Not the soft, contemplative drizzle one associates with the university courtyard and good poetry, but the sort that hammers meaninglessly at the glass as if heaven itself were trying to make a point in Morse code. I'm alone in my office, and a clock insists on reminding me that it's nearly 11. The lamplight has that late-hour quality. Sharp on the papers before me, gentle on everything else, and utterly unforgiving on the feather lying across my notes. Ah, yes. The feather. I've turned it over in my hand so many times that I could almost imagine it breathing with the rhythm of my pulse. It's not an ordinary thing. No bird, no matter how exotic, leaves behind a plumage that shifts its hue in lamplight as though it resents being seen. It hums faintly, as if caught between states of matter, physical and ethereal, both, like something that remembers being light itself. Ernest Wainwright, damn his bright and reckless mind, told me that to summon the Archangel Michael, one must commit a sin and burn a feather of heaven. A sin and a feather. Burning the feather is a sin itself, he told me. Simple enough on paper. Far too bloody simple if you ask me. From my centuries of experience in these matters, this simplicity relit my paranoia. I studied angels for hundreds of years through scripture, apocrypha, physics, and field evidence. Oh, and every now and again having a plain and simple chat with them. I've catalogued their appearances, traced their mythic interference across human history, and measured the psychic shockwaves they leave in their wake. And not once has a legitimate case ever begun with something as convenient as, "Oh look, a feather which fell right into my lap." Coincidence, perhaps? But coincidence has a flavour, and this one tastes of deliberate, bitter, and too good to be sound. I suppose I ought to be utterly flattered. If it is the work of Providence, it means I've been finally noticed. No, it's not that. It's not the first time Michael has noticed me. We're already on first-name terms. Someone is setting me up to fail spectacularly here. Setting me up for a fall. Like Lucifer herself, perhaps. Was it her? Was it Lucy? No, surely not. I'm grasping a little. I sip the whiskey that's been sweating on the desk for an hour, but I require some spiritual sustenance in all senses of the word spirit. The glass has got warm. Disappointing. Still, the gentle burn in my throat as it rinses my mouth, clears my sinuses and enters my esophagus is grounding. Reminds me I am regrettably and not regrettably, not entirely mortal. Ernest's conversation ran through my mind as I sipped. "You must tempt him into proximity, Simon. Angels are drawn to the act of judgment like moths to a flame. Sin boldly, cleanly, and let the sense of it rise with the smoke of its own making. He will come to judge. They always come to judge. To burn the feather is both the sin and the invitation." I trusted Ernest utterly. He was an old soul, and he knew his way in this weird world that we shared. His mind seemed centuries old to me, and he'd experienced a lot of the unreal world in his lifetime. He'd lost so much to it. His beautiful wife, Annabelle, was gone. Not dead. Well, dead, yes, but undead. She had been cursed with vampirism. Gone from him as he aged, and she did not. His one true love. I was jealous of that. His one true love. Not many find such. Yes, he was lucky to find such a love. But unlucky to find such a love too. Anyway, I trusted him, implicitly. A true rarity. Ernest was incapable of doing me any sort of injustice. Although he always liked to blur the line between summoning and baiting, his actions were always quick and never circuitous. Maybe that was the short-lived mortal in him. He sadly was unlike me, truly mortal. And one day, I would lose him. Not the first person I loved that I would lose, nor would he be the last. I smile, still more than capable of such nostalgia. I take my pen and write in the margin of my own notes. To tempt an angel is to court annihilation with impeccable manners. So says Ernest. What a quote. A quote which I would put to good use in a publication or a future lecture. I smirk at that quotation, then underline it. Twice. When you're my age, humor's the only thing that keeps the abyss tolerable. Perpetual survival is constant misery interspersed with brief moments of joy. But those moments of joy are few and far between, and should be grasped when they raise their weary heads. Ernest was a source of many of those moments of joy. Oh, and the whiskey, and the coffee. Yes, that helps too. I've tried being sober and drug-free a few times. I've also found it was the incorrect thing to do for myself, not for everyone. For myself, it wasn't right to give up on the drugs. With the correct corrections, I could often blame them for my actions, you see, and in their own way, they do bring moments of joy. I rise from my desk and walk wearily across to the window. The courtyard below is slick and shining, a reflection of the storm clouds overhead. People walking glisten, rushing through the rain as if they need to escape the next mistake I am about to make. Very wise. The university sleeps. It's an odd place, older than its records admit it to be. The foundations beneath this very building are laid over a Templar crypt. I should know. I built it. And I put my friends in it. I used magical stones that I brought to the site, stones which had symbols carved in them that predate the Templar Order by centuries. Those stones offered protection from magics and misgivings. The site was holy and unholy, in equal parts. I chose this site for this academic institution somewhat selfishly. Ley lines and all that good paranormal nonsense all play a part in my choice. Well, sort of. Well, if I'm honest, I suppose the reality is I finally chose it because the estate I've owned since 1746 is just 12 miles away. At a good canter, a horse can do that in an hour to 45 minutes, and I've spent a lot more years riding here than I have driving. This office hums with my history. And on nights like this, I swear the walls themselves listen. Maybe it's the books. They do live a little. Perhaps that's why I feel uneasy. The office is concerned about the unwanted visitors. The book and the feather that have arrived unexpectedly. I know it's ridiculous, but this place is like a home to me. My spirit has added its own pollution to this place. It knows me. The feather sits where I left it, on my blotter, but every time I turn away, I imagine it moves a little closer to that godforsaken book. I turn quickly to catch it moving. It's absurd, of course. It doesn't move. But even absurdity has never saved anyone from the impossible. I reach for my dictation device, an old Bakelite machine I've had since the Cold War. It clicks and whirs to life, and I begin to speak in the dry tone I reserve for posterity. Field log, November the 6th. Preparations underway for invocation attempt. Class, seraphic. Subject of interest, Michael, Archangel of the First Choir. Methodology, as described in Wainwright's correspondence, the ritual of the burning sin. I pause, glance at the feather again. I remain unconvinced by the appearance of this artifact. The odds of its discovery should have been astronomically low. It was found during the Walthamstow happening. I clicked off the recording device for a moment while I tried to order my thoughts, and I started it again. Either Providence has a sense of humor, or something else has designs upon me. My voice sounds calm, but I feel the pulse behind my eyes, that quick, bright ache that comes when logic begins to fray. I stop the recording. I hate it, I mutter aloud. When the universe starts arranging coincidences, it means it's paying attention, and that gives me a bellyache. And then the phone rings, smashing the thoughtful silence. That ancient phone bell rings out, far too loud. I nearly dropped the pen before rushing to pick up the handset. De Montfort speaking. They're static. Then Eleanor Rigby's voice, breathless and brittle at the edges.
Professor?
Yes?
There's been an accident.
I could hear Will's laughter in the background. What had the bastard done to... I heard her say. The decrease in her voice's volume must mean that it had been directed at Will or someone else there. Will's laughter increased. I covered the handset with my hand so as not to be heard by Eleanor. This was the ancient method of muting your phone before mobile phones were invented. Holding it there, I sighed loudly to the heavens, knowing they would not help me, but it felt sort of rightish. I removed my hand and returned to the conversation. Define bit, I say automatically.
The Bentley's, well, it's bent mostly in one piece.
Uh-huh, I said, my mind in horror. Silence. What's happened? I ask as I grimace.
Will said something about testing the limits of belief, and well, the bollard didn't believe in us.
I close my eyes. Bollard!
Yes, Big Stone. Very real bollard that was not supposed to be real.
God help me, that fucking werewolf. Why does he do this shit? Please tell me no one's dead, but that Will is incredibly badly injured and in horrifying agony. Please tell me that.
No, sir, he's just a bit shaken.
Of course.
Fent's fine, though he's laughing himself sick, and Will's pretending it was all a philosophical exercise, while he laughs at my apparent stupidity.
Good. Embarrassment, Miss Rigby, is a wound the ego can survive, I reassured her.
I'm so sorry. I really am. I should have never listened to it.
I don't hold you to account for this, Eleanor. It's that utter cockwomble Will. I partially lie. I have him securely in the crosshairs of my revenge rifle. Tears from the other end of the line. It's okay, Eleanor. I should have known he'd do something fucking stupid like this. The truth is, I really should have. More tears and sobbing. Poor girl's distraught. It was Will's fault, and actually, partially my own for putting her in that position in the first place. It's fine, honestly, it's just a... I paused while I finished the sentence in my head with £250,000 uninsured Bentley. I changed this unspoken thought to something else, which I muttered to the phone. It's just a car. I couldn't stop the slight stammer. Not a very important car either. Again, I lied. Calling that Bentley a car was wrong. Never mind saying it wasn't important.
I'll pay for it,
she offered. No need to. I forced a laugh, knowing in my head that was simply an impossibility. I won it in a game of strip poker with, what's his face? 007 blokey. Ah, yes. Daniel Craig, that's him, I told her. This was actually true. I won't tell you what he'd have got if I hadn't had those 5 aces up my sleeve.
5 aces?
Came as a question, which I ignored. I'll send someone to recover. I swallowed hard the lump in my throat at the wreck of the Bentayga, saying, the car. And I'll send a taxi for your passengers. I paused. No. I'll have Fortescue fetch you. Even Will can't fuck with Fortescue. Monty has no imagination for Will to fuck with, so we're safe there. Oh, and don't listen to Will, or let him near anything at all inscribed with sigils. He has the moral restraint of a caffeinated raven.
Already learned that lesson, sir,
she returned, with a hint of gallows humour that almost makes me proud of her. I could physically say no more, so I hung up the phone gently, before I slammed both hands on either side of it, letting my anger go. Shit! I yelled. For a long while, I just stood there in disbelief, right hand pressed against my forehead. "Fuck," I said quietly. "What a complete and utter world-beating 00 fucking tosser! Why does he always fucking..." I found myself laughing. And it's because he is what he is. A moment of calm. A moment of acceptance. The rain outside softened, and the thunder rolled away towards the sea. I look at the feather again, its edges pulsing faintly in the lamplight, and I can't help but feel the timing is deliberate. The ritual, the sin, the feather. And now my wayward little entourage crashing into reality like a Greek chorus of cosmic mischief. I reach out and pick it up once more. It's warm to the touch, as if remembering light. So, I murmur, half to it, half to the storm. A sin and a feather, is it? Well then, Michael. Let's see if heaven still answers its calls. The feather glimmers. Somewhere deep in the walls of the university, I swear I hear the faintest sound. Not thunder, not rain, but something like wings brushing stone. I pour another inch of whiskey, smirk at the glass as though doing it a disservice, and add another large measure. The clock ticks on. Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.